I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Nancy Mendez. Nancy Mendez is a dedicated leader in the human services field. She became president and CEO of Starting Point in 2021. Starting Point prepares children and youth for a lifetime of success by building the capacity of professionals to provide high quality care and education, connecting families to those services, and advocating for systems change. Before leading Starting Point, Nancy was the vice president of community investment at the United Way of Greater Cleveland. She was responsible for developing the department's approach for design, development, testing, implementation, and evaluation of community programs and special projects. Nancy also led the 211 HelpLink line that connects individuals in need with services in the community. She was named Crane's Business Woman of Note and in 2013 Distinguished Hispanic Ohioan by the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission. We are thrilled to have her today to tell us more. So without further ado, let me introduce Nancy Mendez.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see so many old friends on screen, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. I have the privilege to tell you a little bit about this organization that now I'm proud to work in, Starting Point. Starting Point has a 35-year history, legacy of working with families, with children, and providers in the community so that we build quality in childcare centers and homes and then connect families to that quality in our community. A lot of folks don't know that Starting Point has a pretty large service area. We work in 4 counties in Northeast Ohio: Cuyahoga, Lake Geauga, and Ashtabula. We are considered the hub of childcare and youth services in Northeast Ohio, and we are the designated childcare center with the state of Ohio. So why is quality in childcare important? Isn't it just babysitting? Well, actually, there is a lot of research, at least 20, 30 years plus, about that really speaks to the brain development of children, and that we've missed the mark in terms of when we started school and public school and in our history. We know that children's brain from ages 0 to 5, 90% of the development is done actually between the ages of 0 to 5. And there's a lot of opportunities to really lay the foundation for children to succeed in those ages. We also know that childcare is the reason why many parents and families are allowed to work. It is the backbone of our economy. And so when you think of childcare, you think of it as the foundation for children to succeed in school, in life. We do know, along with the research, that children who go to quality childcare are more higher rates of high school graduation, higher rates of college, of attending college, and lower rates of depending on public assistance. While on the other hand, their families are allowed to work in the here and now. So it's the future and the backbone of our economy. Let me give you a quick example of that, of both parents and children really benefiting from childcare. We had a young woman that had 2 small children under the age of 3. She was living in poverty and really wanted more for herself and her 2 daughters. So she reached out to Starting Point because she was notified that she was accepted into nursing school, but had no idea how she would attend nursing school while she had 2 children under the age of 3. We were very lucky and happy to find her childcare, quality childcare for both children. And then 2 years later, she graduates, and we are now happy to say that she is a nurse in surgery, and she's in a master's program. And she is a solid middle-class family now. So here's a case where, again, we were able to provide education to 2 small children and allow someone to go back to school for education and now has a solid middle-class career. And what else is Starting Point all about? Well, we're innovators. We took a lending library that was a room downtown that was collecting dust, and we used technology to create it into a digital resource library, a lot like Libby, and actually it's a partnership with Libby. We are the only childcare resource center across the state that actually uses this technology, which allows both providers and parents to be able to access really critical resources right through their phone. We also are an incubator. Most of you have heard of the Cleveland Lead Safe Coalition. We're happy to be part of that, and we are one of the only programs in the country that actually mediates lead from childcare centers and homes. We're working towards abatement and with childcare centers and homes that are welcoming us into their center testing. And if we find lead, we work with them not to disrupt their business while we remediate the lead. And we do this in collaboration, again, with the Cleveland Coalition and the Cleveland Clinic. And we are also intermediary. We fund programs, we train, we provide resources to both nonprofits and community members in throughout Northeast Ohio. So again, Starting Point is proud to be innovators, incubators, and an intermediary. And want to tell you a little bit about our reach. We touch about 24,000 individuals throughout Northeast Ohio every year. That includes families and their children. It includes businesses and the providers who provide childcare and after-school programming. I want to tell you a little bit more about each of our areas. So let's begin with our programs, our services for our families. We have programs like childcare referral. We work with foster parent recruitment, out of school time referral. We have a new exciting program called Parent and Youth Ambassadors that provides connection to other resources in the community. But let me tell you a little bit more about our childcare resources. We have a database of almost 1,200 childcare centers and homes throughout our service areas. So we really can help families really pinpoint near their neighborhoods where they live or the neighborhoods where they work. What are the options for them for childcare that they can afford and what programs that they may qualify for? You can do an online search on our website, or if you need a little bit more hand-holding, we're more than happy to do that. We have navigators who will work with you in both Spanish and English. Our services for providers are actually very long list. We have a very close relationship with childcare providers. We provide them with support in all areas, trainings, consultations, helping them achieve their licensing, with whether an individual wants to advance in their career through education. We find them dollars to do that. And we're, again, very proud of our very close relationship with our providers because they are our closest partner in helping that child and family. We're particularly proud of being the administrators of UPK program, Universal Pre-K, with our county partners Invest in Children. This is a gold standard program where we provide scholarship dollars to families and very extensive support to this high gold standard childcare centers that provide UPK services throughout our county. We're so proud of this that it's been modeled in other areas in the state where places like Dayton, places like Akron are really looking to our UPK program and really trying to replicate it. So I really want to have a shout out to county government, Invest in Children, as a strong partner with us in your universal pre-K. We also have services for our community. We try to advocate, educate our community. We also provide consultation, for example, to businesses in the community. Outreach, we are holders of a lot of different data and we partner with many folks, including county, the universities, so that we can use data in a way that helps us make long-term decisions as well. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we do with companies. As we're trying to expand and really be of service to our community, We know that our businesses at times have different shifts, or they start earlier than most childcare centers, or are really struggling, say, for example, filling third shift. Well, we have a database. We know the providers in the community, and what we can do is help them zero in again on, okay, you need second shift filled out. Let's work with you to see what seats are available. Or can we work with providers to slightly change their open or close date time so that your employees can access childcare? We are a partner to our business community and our community at large and how they need to use us and our data so that we can connect families and employees to the childcare that they need. And speaking of that, I want to tell you about a special pilot that we are excited about that we are working in partnership with our state government. It's called Business Partners. And why is this a pilot? Well, we've done some research locally with a partnership called Early Matters Northeast Ohio, where we see the cost of not having adequate childcare. Businesses we've seen have lost at least on just in Northeast Ohio about $121 million in productivity. Think about if you've ever had folks that you supervise, that individual that had to take a day off because their mother is not feeling well and she was the person taking care of their child. Someone who can't take a promotion because that means they'll lose their voucher and therefore they can't afford childcare. There is an estimated, again, 121 million in lost productivity because lack of childcare. Parents, on the other hand, have lost over 400 million in things again like not accepting a promotion because that means that then they will lose their publicly funded childcare and then cannot afford childcare. And the community also estimates a loss of 114 million in tax revenue. So that tells us that while we have come a long way with our system of vouchers, publicly funded assistance, we need more help. We need more people at the table to really help come up with some solutions around childcare, and also have a voice around it. So Ohio Business Partnerships is an opportunity where we can help businesses provide childcare as a benefit. And how it works, some of you might have heard of programs like TriShare in other states. This is very similar, but we want to make it very specific to Northeast Ohio. And what it means is that a business might say, we want to contribute $100 a month towards childcare for our employees per child per month, and the state would match that. That's all the decision making that company would have to make. We would receive the funding from the business, we would match that from the state, and we would pay the childcare directly that benefit. We would take care of all the administration, including finding the appropriate trusted childcare for your employee. So I'm mentioning this so if you have any friends out there that are running a company and would like in some way to contribute towards the cost of childcare for their employees, have them call Starting Point. We have a pilot that I think would work for them. Again, all they would have to do is decide what amount they would want to contribute towards the childcare cost, and we would handle the rest. With that, I wanted to get to a Q&A because there's a lot of questions and some misinformation that people have around childcare, and I really wanted some time to have a real conversation around that.
Thank you so much, Nancy. So the last slide that you had up there had so much information in it, and you mentioned that this is happening maybe in some other states. So what have you seen successfully happen because of this program, and what do you hope it does here in Ohio, Northeast Ohio?
So why this is an exciting pilot is that, number one, when we've been speaking to a lot of businesses, the first thing we hear is, well, we haven't heard that childcare is an issue with our employees. But in fact, when we speak to the employees, they've always experienced, families with children have always experienced childcare as a barrier, as an issue, but they've always seen it as something that they have to take on themselves. When we allow for the opportunity via survey or some other tool where an employer can hear from their employees, then they in fact hear, yes, this has been a barrier. Or if the businesses know that it's an issue, they're afraid that they don't have an answer. So why open up that can of worms if I have no way to help my employees? And so that's been one of those issues where we now are at a point where like, okay, let's come up with some solutions. So what we've seen in other states, like Michigan, for example, they came up with this program called TriShare, and it's just that. 1/3 of the cost would be on the individual, 1/3 the state, and one third of the employee would contribute to childcare costs. That is a little high for a lot of businesses, in particular small businesses. So what we're trying to do here is really customize the program. What can your business afford? Think about something I threw out there, $100. Believe it or not, if that is matched by the state, that's almost $2,500 a year towards your cost of childcare. Let's say it could be somewhere around the neighborhood of 14,000 a year. That's groceries for a month, or that's gas, and it really helps have a very good impact on the individual. It also tells them you care about me and my family, and what we're seeing is higher rates of ability to attract new talent and keep talent when you have a benefit like childcare.
Yeah, that's great. So, what are some of the common misconceptions around childcare that you run into?
The biggest one, childcare is just babysitting. Why does it cost so much? Why is this an issue? Well, some of you on the call that have been doing this work for a lot of many years, even though you look really young, you know that we used to hear about the horror stories of people not having childcare, of a family member taking care of a child and the child getting leaving the home and something happening to them. We've heard of a gap in education where children are just not ready for that first day in kindergarten because while the people taking care of them may love them to death and provide them with great food, they really aren't nurtured. They really aren't understanding the importance of educating that child. They're not in an environment that's really helping them prepare for school. So we would see a huge population of children who that first day in school were already behind and then stayed behind for the rest of their education. So this has been huge in terms of really helping people understand the importance of childcare. The other thing is when you have a well-meaning grandparent or neighbor taking care of their child and say they want to go on vacation, what happens? You have to call off work. You're scrambling around trying to find another family member or friend to take care of your child. This again was the norm. So we are talking about not babysitting, but we're talking about professionals that are receiving training and every year have to go through hundreds of hours of training to really understand what's the research, the science behind being able to prepare that 2, 3, 4 year old to be successful in school and in life.
Yeah, that's so important. Going back to the Ohio business plan, with federal funding cuts happening, how is the state agreeing to do funding in this pilot, and who's championing it at the state level?
The reason why at a time where there's a lot of challenge around our budgets and a lot of health and human service organizations are feeling that challenge, it's because they feel that this may perhaps be a vehicle for the corporate community to provide some benefit towards childcare so that it's not solely on the shoulders of the individual and the government. So for the state, it's a way to invite the corporate community to become more engaged in private-public partnerships. And we do see that there are many companies that really want to be of help, want to be part of the solution. And for us, we also see it as a way to educate our employers, to help them with advocating on the state level. Sure, we'll put in our part, we'll do our part, but we feel that this providing childcare is an economic engine. And perhaps we will see more advocacy from our companies as well. When we see that a state or a region has a strong system of childcare, they're able to attract more businesses. They're able to keep businesses. So again, we see childcare as one of those essential ingredients to have a thriving economy. And I believe many of our legislators understand that and want to figure out a solid childcare solution.
So you work with so many different stakeholders, right? Individuals, families, childcare services, employers, businesses. So how do you ensure that people find you when they need to? And how do they know to come to you?
So I want to thank some of the board members that are on the screen. Um, they are when I took the job, that was something we openly talked about. While we've been around for 35 years, there was something that we're called that is not good for a nonprofit to be called, which is a best kept secret. When you are in existence to connect families to quality childcare, you cannot be a best kept secret. So, what we have really leaned into is marketing, communications, social media, outreach. I want everyone to hear us 10 times a day. I know that would be a nightmare for a lot of you, but I want all of you to hear about Starting Point over and over again because you may not need Starting Point, but a friend of yours who owns a business may need us. Your neighbor who just had a baby may need us. And so that is what we are really leaning into, is to make sure that everyone in Northeast Ohio knows we exist. Whether you own a company, whether you're thinking about having a child, you should know that about our services and that we are here to serve your children and the community.
And so much of what you do is advocacy too. And so how do you use your own influence as a leader to get people who don't have children to care about this issue, to get people where it's not maybe top of mind to care and to know about this topic?
It started with the collaboration Early Matters Northeast Ohio and research, really looking at numbers beyond how it affects the individual family and really trying to put a spotlight on how it affects our regional economy. When you do not have adequate, affordable childcare, here's the cost. Here's the cost to you who perhaps never had children or had children 30 years ago. It still is a cost to our community. And that's where some of these numbers came out in terms of what would it cost the business community, what did it cost the individual, what is it cost us in terms of tax revenue. It is cheaper to pay for childcare, find a way to make childcare affordable than what we lose in our economy. And I told you about that one story about that one individual who went from poverty to a solid middle class. And then there's stories of a woman, for example, who we talk about the cost of foster care, for example. We had a mom who had a set of twins and 5 children under the age of 6. And we went into total crisis, mental health crisis, to the point she was ready to give up all her children. Not because she didn't love them, but she feared she couldn't take care of them and that she would put them at risk. It was heart wrenching. Starting Point, along with our partners and Invest in Children and other nonprofits, rallied around her. And one of the things we were able to do is find her childcare for all her children and transportation for before care and after care for the children in school. That help was enabled her to keep her children and keep her family intact. That's something that you can't put research numbers on, but we've all heard about the rising number of children in foster care and then the cost to society of children who are jumping from foster family to foster family, and then the cost of broken adults. So what we're talking about is trying to help families stay together so that we are helping children thrive now and be able to succeed now and in the future, and not try wrapping around 20, 30 different types of services for a broken adult in our economy.
Yeah, and you mentioned how important early intervention is, early education, getting kids ready, the pre-K level. Um, what are you doing to kind of highlight how important this issue is across the state, for everyone?
A combination of real data, leaning into that, and understanding our data. We collected data, like many nonprofits at first in our early years, to report back to funders. But we are really, along with marketing and communications, leaning in on understanding our own data and combining it with larger data sets to really tell a story of what's happening in our community, so that then we can also tell the story not just in the economy, but of what's happening to our children when we don't have proper quality, affordable childcare. So what's the when, for example, if a child does attend quality childcare, we know that again they are more apt to graduate with a high school diploma, go on to trade school or college, and again, less likely to depend on public assistance. So we can do that looking at things like that are called like kindergarten readiness assessment scores, looking at third grade reading scores, looking at high school diplomas, and then and really looking at long-term data points and connecting them to our children. That means, again, leaning into our data, bringing in more sophisticated systems, and not being afraid. Just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean that you can't access these different tools. We just have to be bold. We have to be innovative, and go. And then if there's something we don't know, lean to our partners in the community and say, "Hey, how can you help us do this?" But using the combination of data and real storytelling, combining that, educating our legislators, educating our community leaders, I think is something that we are really taking on.
Yeah, and you're working on systems change. So have you seen successes? And maybe where have some of those big challenges been in the system change space?
I'll start with a success that I'm very proud of. During COVID, many centers had to close. And the lifeline for childcare, where we had essential workers, people working in stores, hospitals, they had to go back to work. They had no choice. They needed a place to a childcare center, somewhere to leave their children. Childcare centers were struggling to open, but our family childcare homes could stay open. And they were really the heroes that a lot of folks don't know, that stayed open and really took the brunt of childcare for those essential workers. But it's we were losing some of them. And one of the things we did was really start to push it as a opportunity for entrepreneurship for young women, or women who wanted their own business. And one program in particular called Luna, I don't know what it all meant, but it was Latinas Unidas for something else, where it was basically a program that was specifically about recruiting Latinas in the community who thought, okay, how can I start my own business? Hey, I can open up a family childcare center. And it was statewide, but I have incredible staff that really blew it out the water, where we exceeded our goals in recruitment and training and opening up childcare centers, that the national organization that owns Luna still to this day uses my team to help with trainings in other states. So that, I think, is a really great way to do two things: have more seats, quality seats in the community, but provide entrepreneurship opportunities, business opportunities, in particular for Black and Brown women in our community.
That's amazing. Just one last thing. How can we on the call best support you and Starting Point and your team and the work that you're doing?
Spread the news of the importance of childcare. It's not babysitting. And please, if you have friends that own and run businesses, tell them about Starting Point. We want to partner with them, that so that they can we can help them attract talent and keep talent by offering childcare benefits to their employees. And if you know anyone that is in state or local government, please let them know childcare matters. And if they want some data or stories, send them to Starting Point.